Hello everyone, and welcome to Earth Archives. In 19th century Germany, a young man gifted with both piano skills and a poetic soul composed some of the most poetic chapters of Romantic music with his passionate and intense notes. This was Robert Schumann. In this episode, we will take you deep into the life journey of this musical genius, from his bookish childhood in a small German town to the groundbreaking love story with Clara that shook the music world, and to his tragic later years where spirit and art intertwined. You will learn how Schumann perfectly combined literature and music to create timeless masterpieces like Carnaval and Dichterliebe, becoming an unforgettable soul in music history. If you love classical music, romantic art, or are curious about the life stories of great composers, this is a must-watch. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Let's get started. Robert Schumann, a giant of Romantic music, lived a life like a symphony full of dramatic twists and turns, both sweet melodies and intense shifts. Born in 1810 in a small town in eastern Germany, Schumann was destined to have an inseparable bond with the arts from the very beginning. His father was a shrewd and well-read bookseller who not only ran a bookstore, but also took part in compiling dictionaries, providing young Schumann with a strong cultural foundation. Surrounded by an atmosphere filled with books and poetry, little Schumann grew up immersed in literature, which later laid the groundwork for the rich poetic and dreamy qualities found in his musical compositions. Robert Schumann's birthplace was a picturesque small town in eastern Germany called Zwickau. This ancient town, known not only for its tranquil streets and beautiful natural scenery, was also the cradle that nurtured this musical genius. In 1810, Schumann was born into a family steeped in artistic spirit, an environment that laid a solid foundation for his future artistic achievements. His father, August Schumann, was a learned and versatile bookseller who not only ran a bookstore, but was also a talented writer and scholar. He participated in the compilation of dictionaries and had a profound mastery of language and literature. It was in this family environment that young Robert was immersed from an early age in a sea of poetry and books, where music and literature perfectly intertwined in his heart, becoming an inseparable part of his soul. Notably, his father's influence extended beyond daily reading and cultural nurture to show clear guidance and encouragement during Robert's youth. At just 15 years old, Schumann had already begun publishing literary reviews in the literary society run by his father. This not only demonstrated his literary sensitivity and critical ability, but also revealed a depth of thought and artistic insight far beyond his years. This experience laid a solid foundation for Schumann's literary creation and appreciation, and inspired him to skillfully blend the poetic and narrative qualities of literature into his future musical works. From a young age, Schumann's inner world was filled with imagination and passion. He often read works by Romantic poets such as Shelley, Goethe, and Schiller. The thoughts and emotions of these literary giants profoundly influenced his understanding and pursuit of art. Because of this, Schumann's music was not merely a combination of melodies and harmonies, but also a powerful outlet for emotions and a form of intellectual expression. He skillfully infused the vivid imagery and narrative qualities of poetry into every movement, allowing listeners to feel as if they were experiencing a series of vivid stories. During his childhood, Schumann not only demonstrated exceptional musical talent, but also showed remarkable literary aptitude. This dual artistic potential later made him a versatile genius, excelling as a composer, pianist, and music critic. While many children his age were still playing, Schumann was already contemplating how to express his inner feelings through music and words. This early artistic sensitivity paved a unique path for his future musical creations. However, although Robert Schumann grew up with a privileged literary background, music quickly rose to become an inseparable passion in his life. At the age of 7, he began formal piano lessons, and from the moment he first touched the keyboard, it seemed as if he instantly formed a perfect harmony with the notes. His agility and sensitivity at the keys far surpassed that of other children his age, astonishing both his teachers and family. This was not merely a child's hobby, but a calling shaped by talent and destiny. In 1819, his father August took him to Leipzig to attend a concert featuring the then-famous pianist Ignaz Moscheles. Moscheles's powerful yet delicate performance deeply moved the 9-year-old Schumann. After that concert, filled with passion and admiration, Schumann secretly vowed to become a pianist who could move people's hearts. From that moment on, music became the center of his life, and through his later works, he brought resonance and comfort to countless listeners. However, fate often likes to test those who have extraordinary dreams. Schumann's adolescence was not smooth sailing. In 1825, his closest sister committed suicide due to mental illness. This tragedy had a great impact on the young him. The following year, his father also died because he could not bear the pain of losing his daughter, leaving Schumann, who was only 16 years old, without the two most important pillars of his life. The collapse of the family made the teenager taste the bitterness and sorrow of life early. In 1828, the young Robert Schumann stepped into the University of Leipzig, filled with hopes for the future. On the surface, he was there to study law, fulfilling his mother's expectations and hoping to secure a stable career. But in truth, his soul had long been deeply captivated by music. To him, legal statutes were merely cold, lifeless words, while musical notes were the most passionate language of his heart. Leipzig was no ordinary city. It was the place where Johann Sebastian Bach once worked, the heart of German music, and a center where inspiration and creativity converged. For Schumann, stepping into this city was like entering the depths of his dreams. Here, he was no longer the young man trapped between family expectations and reality, but an artistic soul eager to sing out loud. Upon arriving in Leipzig, Schumann was immediately captivated by the rich, artistic atmosphere. He quickly began frequenting the major music salons, which were gathering places for musicians, poets, and painters of the time. He met many like-minded friends and gradually began to stand out in this artistic circle. The discussions in the salons were filled with poetry, music, and philosophical thoughts, making Schumann feel as though he had found his true home. During this period, he met the renowned piano teacher Friedrich Wieck. Wieck not only had a keen eye for talent, but also greatly admired Schumann's abilities. Schumann was deeply attracted to Wieck's teaching methods and ultimately decided to abandon the cold, rigid study of law to pursue the burning passion for music that had long ignited within him. He moved into Wieck's home and began intensive piano training, not just to improve his technique, but as a profound discipline of the soul. The musical life in Leipzig was not merely about practice and study. It was a dialogue of souls with the great musical masters of the era. Here, Schumann rediscovered the works of Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven. He didn't simply play their compositions. He listened attentively and deeply felt the emotions and structures within. What he learned was not only the language of music itself, but also how to express the most profound human emotions through music: love, longing, loss, and dreams. It can be said that Leipzig marked a crucial turning point in Schumann's life. The city's artistic atmosphere ignited his creative desire deep within and strengthened his resolve to follow a path contrary to worldly expectations. He never truly became a lawyer, but he became one of the most poetic musicians in the hearts of countless people around the world. As Schumann's passion for music grew stronger, his life became almost entirely filled with notes, rhythms, and melodies. He was no longer satisfied with merely listening to and studying the works of predecessors. He yearned to become the pianist who sat under the spotlight, commanding the stage. To achieve this, he decided to dedicate himself to professional piano training and sought out Friedrich Wieck, then the most prestigious piano teacher in Germany. Wieck was a highly perceptive instructor and a very strict educator. He taught not only piano techniques, but also emphasized the psychological strength and artistic intuition of his students. Under his guidance, Schumann progressed rapidly, honing his skills day by day. He firmly believed that with a few more years of hard work, he could rise to become one of the world's top pianists. However, Schumann's temperament was always impatient, and his pursuit of perfection led him to adopt an extreme practice method. To enhance the flexibility and strength of his fingers, he used a mechanical device considered at the time an innovative training tool, designed to strengthen finger independence and agility. Unfortunately, this device had not undergone rigorous scientific testing and instead caused severe damage to the tendons in his right hand. The once nimble and agile fingers could no longer withstand the demands of intense performance. For a young man who saw the piano as the dream of his life, this was almost a devastating blow. Schumann fell into a deep slump. He could no longer play with his hands the most moving melodies in his heart, like a singer losing their voice or a painter losing their sight. His dream of becoming a pianist shattered, the spotlight on the stage faded away, and he even doubted whether he still had the right to continue pursuing a path in music. True artists are never crushed by temporary setbacks. Schumann soon realized that even if he could no longer perform with his hands, he could still create with his soul. He poured all his passion, imagination, pain, and longing into composition. Each melody became a language through which he conversed with the world. Though the piano fell silent, his spirit grew even louder. At the same time, he also turned his attention to music criticism. In 1834, Schumann, together with friends, co-founded the Neue Zeitschrift für Musik, New Journal for Music, which became an important platform for him to express his views and promote new music. He not only championed emerging composers like Chopin, Liszt, and Berlioz, but also vigorously criticized the increasingly rigid and conservative musical atmosphere of the time. His writing was forceful, poetic, and deeply insightful, skillfully combining his literary background with his musical sensitivity, thus pioneering a new realm in music criticism. Carnaval Op. 9 can be seen as a microcosm of Robert Schumann's musical style and one of the most authentic and rich expressions of his emotional world. This piano suite, composed between 1834 and 1835, consists of 21 short pieces of varying styles, like a fantastical and lively dream, fully embodying the spirit of Romanticism. The inspiration for Carnival came from the traditional German Fasching, a grand masquerade ball held before the Lenten fasting period. In Schumann's hands, however, this was not merely a festive celebration, but a parade of inner personas. Each short piece represents a specific character, a personality, or an emotion, some drawn from real life, others born from his imagination, creating something like a psychological drama in piano form. The two most representative characters are Florestan and Eusebius, who are none other than personifications of two distinctly different aspects of Schumann's own personality. Florestan embodies impulsiveness, passion, and extroversion, with bold and fiery musical phrases. Eusebius symbolizes contemplation, gentleness, and dreaminess, with melodies that are reserved and delicate, as if whispering softly in a haze. Through their musical dialogue, we can almost glimpse Schumann's inner conflicts and struggles. Besides these two inner personalities, Schumann also depicted in Carnival the incarnation of his beloved, then still just the daughter of teacher Wieck, Clara Wieck, under the name Chiarina, as well as musicians he admired, such as Chopin and Paganini. He even included satirical portrayals of several figures from the contemporary German music criticism scene. Each movement is like a masked character stepping onto the stage, performing a dance uniquely their own, and then quietly exiting. What's even more surprising is that the entire work conceals a musical code. Schumann cleverly employed the musical notes ASCH, namely AECB, which not only spell out the name of the town, Asch in German, said to be the hometown of one of his girlfriends, but also represent a variation of the notes found in his own name, Schumann. He weaves this motif throughout several movements, creating an abstract yet intimate musical symbol that subtly embeds his personal experiences into the work, resulting in a sound both mysterious and moving. This creative approach undoubtedly demonstrates Schumann's dual passion for literature and music. His music is not merely an arrangement of melodies and rhythms, but rather like a series of private letters tapped out on the piano, with every note filled with emotion and story. This method of characterizing, emotionalizing, and narrativizing music is a hallmark of Romantic music and became a model that many composers emulated later on. In the long history of Romanticism, few musical couples have intertwined love, art, and fate as closely as Robert Schumann and Clara Schumann. Clara was not only the great love of Schumann's life, but also an indispensable source of inspiration for his artistic existence. She was the resonance of his soul, a kindred spirit in music, and his most steadfast supporter throughout his creative journey. In 1832, Schumann first stepped into the Wieck family's music studio. At the time, he was an ambitious young pianist, while Clara, only 9 years old, was already demonstrating remarkable piano talent. Back then, one was a passionate and free-spirited university student, the other an innocent and tender girl. There was no romantic spark between them yet. Schumann's attention was more focused on Clara's father, Friedrich Wieck, the piano teacher who could propel him to the pinnacle of performance. Yet, fate quietly began to weave its melody. As Schumann spent extended periods lodging at the Wieck household, his interactions with Clara grew more frequent. They would play the piano together, discuss compositions, and critique each other's works. This musical rapport gradually evolved, as Clara matured, into a profound emotional bond. They conversed through melodies and confided in harmonies. Their spiritual connection was far deeper than words could express. To Schumann, Clara was not merely a lover, but a true partner who deeply understood his artistic soul. She was not only an outstanding pianist, but also a creative musician capable of discerning Schumann's innermost feelings through the structure and emotional expression of his works. This profound resonance gave Schumann greater courage and inspiration in his compositions. Pieces like Kinderszenen and Dichterliebe all reveal his deep love and longing for Clara. Their love story was both a passionate, romantic symphony and a bittersweet drama overcoming the obstacles of reality. Schumann and Clara's relationship evolved from initial admiration and mutual understanding into a profound and steadfast love. Their bond was never a simple romantic affair, but more like two creators and kindred spirits sharpening and inspiring each other on a soulful level. In that era, a father held great influence over his daughter's marriage, especially someone like Wieck, a music teacher and career manager, who was unwilling to see his daughter sacrifice her career for love. He was well aware of the unstable factors in Schumann's character. His intense emotional swings and fragile mental state, coupled with Schumann's finger injury that prevented him from becoming a concert pianist, all of which became reasons for his strong opposition. He feared that Clara, a rising star in the music world, might fall as a result. But Clara was no ordinary woman. She did not retreat nor doubt her choice. She deeply loved Schumann and firmly believed in his talent and musical worth. After being forcibly taken away from Schumann by her father, she maintained their relationship through letters, which were filled with suppressed emotions and steadfast hope for the future. Schumann poured these feelings into his music. Works like Kinderszenen, Abegg Variations, and Chiarina are tangible expressions of his love for Clara. He even incorporated her name into his compositions through musical notes, embedding his longing within the melodies. In 1839, they took their love to court, suing Clara's father for unjustly obstructing their marriage. This was a highly controversial move at the time, but the two stood firm together, challenging patriarchal authority and societal norms. The legal battle lasted 3 years, and in 1840 they finally achieved victory. The judge ruled their marriage lawful, allowing Clara the freedom to choose her own spouse. On September 12th of the same year, the day before Clara's 21st birthday, they held their wedding in a church. This day was not only a triumph of their love, but also the official union of two musical souls. After marriage, their creativity reached unprecedented heights. Schumann entered his year of song, composing numerous art songs including the famous Dichterliebe, while Clara continued to perform across Europe and became the most steadfast advocate of her husband's music. Although the married life of Robert and Clara Schumann was filled with love and the fusion of art, their marriage was inevitably overshadowed by the realities of life. Beneath the light of happiness and creativity lay Schumann's deepening mental struggles and physical fragility. During the prime of his life, creation and suffering intertwined like inseparable shadows. The early years of their marriage were indeed sweet and prolific for Schumann. He was immersed in the joy of love and, accompanied by Clara, reached the peak of his creative powers. The year 1840, known as his Year of Song Liturgie, saw him compose over 130 art songs, a dazzling highlight in his musical journey. Dichterliebe, A Poet's Love, was one of the representative works born during this time. This cycle, set to poems by Heinrich Heine, portrays a poet's emotional journey from passionate love to heartbreak, filled with delicate sorrow and profound tenderness. Each song feels like Schumann's heartfelt confession to Clara, reserved yet intense, deeply moving. Schumann's life was like the melodies he composed, at times soaring and passionate, at others mournful and serene. Yet, in the final chapter of his life, this romantic master was mercilessly pushed by fate into the depths of his own mind. In the 1850s, his mental condition rapidly deteriorated. What had once been occasional hallucinations and anxiety became nearly constant companions day and night. The devil's music that echoed endlessly in his mind was like a never-ending eerie sonata, entangling his consciousness and making it increasingly difficult for him to distinguish reality from illusion. Confronted with this collapse, Schumann ultimately had to relinquish the Neue Zeitschrift für Musik, the magazine he had founded with his own hands. This publication had been an important platform for his criticism and promotion of musical development, witnessing his sharp insight and ideals in the field of music criticism. Now even this spiritual anchor had to be let go, marking the approach of the end of his life and spirit. In 1853, a young musician named Johannes Brahms visited Schumann. Although Schumann's condition had already begun to noticeably deteriorate, he immediately recognized Brahms's talent and even wrote excitedly in his diary, "This is a man chosen by God." This may have been the brightest moment of his later years. However, this glimmer of light was soon swallowed by his illness. Hallucinations persisted, emotional breakdowns worsened, and he even believed he was possessed by evil spirits. Finally, in February 1854, unable to endure it any longer, he attempted to end his life by jumping into the Rhine River. Fortunately, he was rescued by nearby fishermen and saved, but his mental health was beyond recovery. From that point on, Schumann was sent to a sanatorium in Endenich near Bonn. Initially, his family and Clara hoped for his recovery, but things did not go as wished. The conditions in the sanatorium were far from ideal. At that time, the understanding of mental illness was still very primitive, and the treatments were hardly humane. He was kept in long-term isolation, unable to see Clara and their children, receiving only occasional visits and musical manuscripts from Brahms. During these dark years, Schumann was sometimes lucid and sometimes confused. Occasionally, he would still compose and write letters, as if his soul had not yet fully slipped away. But more often, he would sit quietly, letting his thoughts drift in a chaotic world. On July 29, 1856, this once brilliant composer, who poetically expressed emotions through music, passed away from pneumonia in the sanatorium at the age of only 46. After Schumann's death, Clara Schumann showed extraordinary resilience and determination. Though she had lost her beloved partner, she was not crushed by grief. Instead, she transformed her longing into strength and resolutely took on the responsibility of preserving and continuing Schumann's musical legacy. This gifted woman became one of the most dazzling piano virtuosos of 19th century Europe and the most devoted and influential advocate of her husband's music. Clara's lifelong piano tours spanned nearly all of Europe. On the stages of musical hubs such as Vienna, London, Paris, Hamburg, and Prague, She tirelessly performed Schumann's works, allowing more people to discover, understand, and fall in love with those emotionally rich and poetic melodies. For many listeners, their first encounter with Schumann's music was through Clara's gentle yet resolute playing. Her interpretations not only preserved the purity of Schumann's compositions, but also added the unique delicacy and heartfelt depth characteristic of a female musician. Beyond performing, Clara quietly devoted herself to organizing and editing Schumann's manuscripts and letters, publishing many of his unpublished works. She was not just a musical inheritor, but a guardian who carefully nurtured the creative spirit of her husband, often misunderstood during his lifetime. For her, this was not only a promise of love, but a profound loyalty to art. In an era when women's social status was far from widely respected, Clara's insistence on pursuing a professional career as a musician was both rare and admirable. She proved not only her strength as a pianist, but also, through her actions, that Schumann's music would not fall silent with his passing. Until her old age, she continued touring across Europe, performing her husband's music with a devotion akin to faith. It can be said that without Clara, the Robert Schumann we know and admire today might have been a genius lost to the tides of history. It was precisely because of Clara's persistence and dedication that Schumann's music was able to transcend time and enter the hearts of countless people, becoming an unshakable pinnacle of romantic music. She guarded their love with her life and, with her hands, played eternal melodies for that love. Today, Robert Schumann's music still shines like a bright light, crossing time and space to warm and inspire the souls of music lovers everywhere. Whether it is the lively and imaginative piano suite Carnival or his emotionally charged symphonies, Schumann's works always move listeners with rich colors and profound emotions. He was not only a promoter of romantic music, but also the era's most fitting spokesperson for its emotions and ideals. His music often embodies a delicate observation of life and sincere reflection. From the passionate energy of his youth to the profound melancholy of his later years, Schumann told his own story through melodies that also reflected the Romantic era's pursuit of freedom, dreams, and emotional depth. This unique musical language has left an indelible mark on the history of music. Robert Schumann's music is far more than just a label of romanticism. Its rich layers and profound meanings exceed all expectations. Through his works, we can feel a deep emotional tension that stems not only from the ups and downs of his personal life, but also from a sincere portrayal of the entire human emotional world. His music embodies both poetic tenderness and intense conflict and struggle, and this emotional ebb and flow opened a new door for later composers to explore new horizons. Technically, Schumann continually broke traditional boundaries. He dared to experiment with different sound effects and structural arrangements, making his works both innovative and artistically beautiful. His piano pieces, vocal works, and symphonies are filled with unique harmonic changes and rhythmic vitality, becoming exemplary models of Romantic-era music composition. This bold technical exploration made his music both thought-provoking and influential to later musical giants, including Brahms and Wagner. More importantly, Schumann's music reflects his infinite love and dedication to art. His life was full of struggle and pain, and his mental turmoil became the source of his creativity, making his music more genuine and moving. It was precisely this steadfast commitment to art that allowed him to create a rich and diverse musical world within his short life, showcasing the relentless spirit of artistic creation and the pursuit of perfection. From the dreams and passions of youth, through the love and creativity of middle age, to the confusion and struggles of his later years, Schumann's life was like an unfinished symphony, melodious and intense, yet always sincere. He was not only a representative figure of Romanticism, but also a master architect who wove emotion and thought into the language of music. His story reminds us that art springs not only from technique, but also from life's insights and a deep listening to the soul.